Very interesting stuff. So we're going to go ahead and start with this. I've got it scheduled at 15 after, and it's 11 after now, but I can go ahead and pop the roll open now that I've got it on camera, and we can get things ready to roll. This is one of the oldest Batdorf rolls I've ever opened. One of the oldest I've ever opened. And it seems to be a very nice, crisp Batdorf roll. We do have a pull to do, Dennis, and that's going to happen tomorrow. I've got 2 reveals plus the pull scheduled tomorrow. And then I've got one more reveal that I'll probably do either Sunday or Monday. And then I'll get us scheduled to get more reveals out and ready for the auction coming up on Tuesday. There we go. And wrapper over the coins. Commerce Trust Company, Kansas City, Missouri. All right, there's the coins. Absolutely as nice as we thought they'd be. Let me go ahead and get started here. Coin number 1. Drum roll, please. The first person pulled in a long time, Adam Chambers. Adam Chambers will get this coin. Coin number 1 at the end of the wrapper. And get it focused in here real good. And I don't see anything in the mint mark area. Okay, take a look at the eye for a doubled eyelid possibility. No doubled eyelid. Has a little bit of weak hubbing there toward the end of the T in trust. A little weak. I don't see anything else though. And let's see, on the reverse, I got nada. I don't really expect anything to come up on the reverse on 1956D. It's rather a boring issue on the reverse. Just the obverse is what we're really after, and we're after a number of different things. We've got D and S. We've got D over D, D and D. We've got a bunch of stuff to be looking for. Doubled eyelids. We have a lot of nice things that we can find on 1956D. And second coin in the roll. Nothing here. Little die crack across the head. One across the forehead. But nothing else that I can see right off. So let's take a look at the reverse on this. And we're going to look at the reverse of about the first 10 coins. After about the first 10 coins, we're going to speed things up just a little bit and not look at the reverses. I know it's past Eric's bedtime. We've got to get him to bed sometime soon. Current stance on placing Confederate flags on graves in North Carolina. It is as appropriate as placing a U.S. flag. However, placing the Confederate flag, it's better to place the Confederate national flag as opposed to the Confederate battle flag. Confederate battle flag was the stars and bars. Hey, there we go. There's a little RPM for you. Double split serif, upper and lower. Let's find a marker here real quick, and then I'll get back on the flags. As soon as I can find me a decent marker that I want to use. I'm looking at a die. Wait a minute. What do we have? We've got some die scratches, diagonal die scratches to the west and north of the one of the date, kind of almost parallel the front of the vest. You can see those. Let's see what else we have. Okay, there's a die crack across the back half of the head. Nice rip'em. Okay, so we got our first rip'em for the roll. I don't know which one it is, but this one's probably going to be one of our listed ones. It has a pretty nice doubled upper and lower serif. So that's going to be RPM 1 for the roll. Remember our die scratches to the northwest of the 1. That's coin number 3 for Bulldog. Let's pull through and do coin number 4, James Worley. The battle flag for the Confederates is the very common, very well-known Stars and Bars, which is it's a red background with a blue X and 13 white stars inside the blue X. That flag is one that causes some contention because that flag is also associated with racism. The Confederate national flag is more the official flag of the country, which split from the United States in 1861 and was forcefully brought back to the United States in 1865. And that flag is a red stripe, white stripe, red stripe with a blue field in the area that you would have a blue field in the U.S. flag with, I believe it's 7 stars. There's a couple of different flags, but the one I'm thinking of has 7 stars. This one's for Adam Chambers. And I wouldn't have any problem with laying that flag at the grave of a Confederate soldier because that's what the Confederate soldiers fought for. They fought for that country. But the thing to understand with that is any Confederate soldier who did not die on the field, they were born an American and they died an American. So I have no problem with placing the U.S. flag at their grave, nor does the United States of America, because they were officially brought into law as U.S. veterans in a law that was written and passed, I believe, in 1958. They became officially United States veterans. So I will put a United States flag at their grave just as well as I would a Confederate national flag. Either way, it doesn't really matter, because if you're placing a national flag as a sign of respect at the grave of a veteran, a soldier, whether they died in battle or not, you are respecting that person's service. And that's the way I look at it. If you're respecting that person's service, then I wouldn't see why either flag would not be appropriate. Good evening, Rithy Yurth. Good evening, Hidden Numismatist. Adam Chambers again here. Let's see what we get for Adam here. Not seeing anything on this coin. Turn it down just a little bit and see if maybe we'd be able to see better. Just slightly dimmer light. Okay, I see what could possibly be a very, very minor split lower serif that we're not going to count. I had one ancestor of mine in the Johnson family, C.W. Curtis Washington Johnson, died in battle in 1863 in Virginia as a Confederate soldier. I had a three-greats grandfather named Right Handy Johnson, who lived through the Civil War as a private in the 24th North Carolina Infantry as a Confederate soldier. I had at least 2 Thompson relatives. There's another one of those that looks like an extremely minor doubled lower serif that we're not going to be able to count. Had a Thompson family relative, at least one, who fought in the Civil War. And he lived through it. Although I did find pension records for a couple of the different members of the family who had, one of them had a hand shot during the war. And it wasn't until after 1900, or nearly, it was like 1885 or 1890, he drew pension, or applied for pension through the United States because he could not use his hand. He was a farmer. He hadn't been able to use his hand since the war. So a lot of times when people were shot during the war, if they weren't killed and they didn't die of disease from the wound, they certainly didn't live a great life after the war, most of them, because healing was never a complete process for them. Yeah, Right-Handy Johnson had a brother named Wright Allen, and he had another brother named Vine Allen. Right-Handy had a son named Handy, and then he had a son named Right-Handy. So Right-Handy had a grandson named Right-Handy. The first Right-Handy, it was spelled right like your left and your right. R-I-G-H-T, Right-Handy. And the Confederate Army took that name, as they did many names, and butchered it into right-handed. So he became Right-Handed Johnson during the war. He was a private in Company I, 24th North Carolina Infantry Regiment. And I found his grave in a family cemetery in the back of a horse field. Had to drive through the horse field to get to the graveyard. He and his wife, my three greats-grandmother Joyce, were buried together. And I'll tell you something about studying some genealogy. Some of the genealogy that I've been involved in, been immersed in over the last week has taught me a lot. First of all, about half of everyone back then didn't spell, not even their name. So there were no really official spellings of anybody's name up until close to 1900. So when you see marriage records or birth records or death records or even headstones for different people in your family, they may or may not be spelled the same way every time. I had a three greats grandmother named Arsenia, A-R-C-E-N-I-A. Well, people knew her as Sini or Arsenia, and her name is spelled 6 or 7 different ways on different documents. Even her headstone, C-E-A-N-Y, Sini. Not Arsenia, but Sini. So people weren't as specific about their name as we are now. There's not 2 ways to spell my name, but certainly with Arsenia, and another name which was pretty common back in the 1800s in the Southeast, Farabee or Faraba. I have a 3 greats grandmother whose name was Farabee, and Farabee could be spelled, actually it was my 2 greats grandmother, P-H-E-R-A-B-Y, P-H-E-R-A-B-E-E, F-E-R-B-Y. There's a bunch of different ways of spelling it. I thought that was interesting too. You run into a bunch of different spellings. I have at least 40 to 50 different relatives in this county. Oh, sorry, I didn't show you that one. That was Dennis Polson. In this county, this is the coin again. And I know where they're buried now. I know where all of them are. And oddly enough, many of them are buried less than 10 miles away from my house. And I did not pick this house because it was near the family homestead. We picked this house because it was a nice house in the country that was still accessible to the Raleigh area. We've got our marker for the RPM, but this is not the RPM. We've got our die scratches, but we don't have the RPM itself. So this must be a different die. Yeah, Spike Ted, I would read what CMUS just put down. there are a number of tilted die clashes in the 1960s, small dates. Those seem to come back around 1995, somewhere around in there. And they kind of run profusely through the end of the 1990s into toward the end of the memorial issue, where you can actually find the clash of a rim running across the field on the obverse of a very heavily misaligned die clash. It's really, really interesting. You don't see them very often, but they are out there. I know of some from like 1993, 1994, 1996. I know I've seen quite a few 1999. So far, only one RPM found in this roll. One example of that one RPM found in this roll. The coins in this roll are not the cleanest in the world. I would hope for better because it was a nice Batdorf roll. This will be the last one I actually check the reverse on because, well, the reverses don't tend to ever turn up much of anything on 1956D. Hey, Wanda. Well, look at that. What do you know? You show up just in time. Here's your coin. Now for Wanda. She gets one of the RPMs. What do you know? Is this... I believe it's the same die. Maybe not. No, this is the one that's... This one's actually one of the ones that's too minor. I'm sorry. It's got a little tiny split on the lower serif, nothing on the upper serif, and it's just not enough to count. There are so many different ones like this that they are nearly impossible to identify. So I just kind of ixnayed the idea of putting them in the listing. Here's one for Rebecca. This is Rebecca's first, I believe her first reveal coin. Let's see what we get for Rebecca. Well, got nothing on this one. Unfortunately. The rest of the visit with Mom was a great visit. We did a lot of library research. We did a lot of grave hunting, walking around in graveyards looking for names on headstones. Found a number of them. There were also a number of them we did not find, so I've got a project ahead of me to go back and look for them. One of my great-grandmother's brothers is buried about 2 miles from here. And after exhaustive and extensive searching, I did not find his grave. J. Johnson, my great-great-uncle. This is all my paternal family, my father's family. My father's dad came from Ohio. My father's mother was born about 6 miles from here. My father's mother's family is Thompsons, mostly all in North Carolina. And then that same grandmother, her mother was a Johnson, her father was a Thompson. They were all from this area. My father's father, Charles, went into the Marine Corps in 1940. Served in the Marine Corps, went overseas to battle. And he mustered out at Camp Lejeune, or in the Camp Lejeune area, and moved up here to be with his new wife. After he had gone through the war with a Purple Heart. And he and my grandmother lived in this very area. Here we go. There's another one of those. I knew we'd run into one eventually. Upper and lower split serif. This one goes to Rebecca. There's our die scratches. Die crack across the back of the head. So we definitely have another example of the same die that Bulldog pulled earlier. So that's awesome. And Rebecca shows up just before her coin shows. We've already got one of your coins out, Rebecca. You've got 3 coins altogether in this, I do believe. And we've already pulled one of them. It wasn't anything, but this one is a minor RPM, and I will be examining this and its partner coin in this roll for an identification later. She showed up just... Well, here's our 3rd coin right here. Got Rebecca again. And we got another RPM. And it is another, I believe, could be another of the same die. Looks like it probably is another of the same die. Upper and lower split serif, so you'll get 2 of them. So after my grandfather came to North Carolina to be with his new wife, they had my father here and decided to move back to his family homestead in Ohio. And they lived there until 1959, after they'd had my father's sister and brother. And they moved to Missouri. That's where my father and my mother met. And eventually I was born. So my father's mother's family existed throughout this area and still does exist through this area. Mostly Johnston County, North Carolina, but they've spread out. You know, since highways and cars and stuff became more popular in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, families started spreading out a whole lot more. Prior to that, families generally stayed in one area. And so that area for my family, my dad's family, was right here. So there is another one of the RPMs. This one, check for that crack on the back of the head. Right there. This one's going to go to Mr. Worley. So it looks like we have a 4th example of this particular die in this roll. Now, coin number 26. We're now more than halfway through the roll. And I've got nothing on this coin. This particular one for Bill Crusson turns out to be nothing. As I was saying back during the beginning of the show, for the people who were here at the time, I'm going to turn up the dial just a little bit on the reveals. I have given up on the idea of trying to use my microscope to show these coins. So I'm going to end up having to go through every roll again just to be sure I didn't miss anything with this microscope, because this one doesn't show quite the detail that I would be looking for to be able to see the little minor stuff that I'd want to be able to pick out. It's just the lighting isn't quite right, and the resolution of the camera isn't quite what I want it to be. So I tried and tried and tried to get my other microscope camera to work for this, and I could not seem to install it and get it working properly. But I did get it to a point where I could at least photograph coins. That was something that I wasn't able to do for almost 2 months. I had no way of photographing coins because my camera would not stay online without crashing more than about 30 seconds And it got to be extremely, extremely annoying. YouTube dropped the ball again. My wife says that I should be getting into doing TikTok videos of coins, and I'm not exactly sure what I would do with TikTok, but she says I should get a TikTok account. She said that now that it's not a Chinese company, it's a much better product, and you're much less likely to suffer from the spyware and virus stuff that the Chinese would put into the software. Yeah, YouTube drops the ball and they don't tell you that you got a video coming up. They don't warn you. Then by the time you know anything's going on, I'm already live. Already live and opening rolls. I don't know, Wanda. I'm really still kind of confused as to how that could do anything for me. But Tam seems to think that it's something I need to look into because, well, TikTok is becoming really popular. Well, so is putting eyeliner across your eyelid, but I don't do that either, so I don't know. They do still get commercials in, that's for sure. She says that she thinks that it would be popular enough to draw the same kind of crowd and a different crowd of people than I have on YouTube. Yo, man. It's an interesting looking mint mark, but it's just damage on the top, and the bottom shows one little tiny split. I think it's the same really minor split that we've seen. Another coin so far. We're down to where we've only got about 15 coins left, and we have found one single different RPM. So I think that's what we're going to end up with in this roll. I haven't really checked all of these for condition, but man, they do look definitely shiny. Some of the coins are not. Oh, they've got the little planchet wash issue that you get sometimes. This one's for James Eubanks. But the coins are nicer than they look underneath this lighting. Oh, doubled eyelid. Nice doubled eyelid too. That one's for James Eubanks. Read the book about the 1823 match race between Eclipse and Sir Henry. Sir Henry was owned by a North Carolina man named Johnson or something like that. You may be related. There is some chance of that, actually. I would like if you would send me that in an email so I could be sure and remember it, and I'll go find it. Because if it's nonfiction, it has to do with history in this state, I got a wonderful access library for that. So this is James Eubanks. Really nice looking double eyelid. First one like that in the roll. He did put his eyeliner on, and I'm proud of him. Mike Birchman. Because you know that's popular these days, and what people do, you do. Because, well, you have to belong with the crowd, right? Peer pressure's a bitch. I didn't say that. Yeah, I did. It's past 9 o'clock, and, well, this video wasn't scheduled to be viewed by children. It is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised. Can't find anything on that one. I actually went to a coin show in Raleigh last weekend, and it was actually a good show. And it hit me totally by surprise, but it was a nice show. It was pretty large. Had a lot of people there. A lot of coins. I didn't buy much, but I did do a lot of networking. I talked to a lot of people and gave them my information. And it seems as though I have what could be a chain of good stuff coming in throughout the eastern half of the country. So we'll see how that works out for me. This one actually looks like it's a pretty decent RPM. May have to pay attention to this one. This one is split on the top and the bottom. So we're going to pull this one out. I'll check on it later, see if I can attribute this to anything, and if we can, well, for absolutely certain, I will pull it out, and Sureg will get an RPM listing. So, there we go. Now, coin number 37 goes to Wanda. Let's see what Wanda gets. Wanda gets, well, she gets a 1956 D. Lincoln cent that has officially been touched by yours truly. I didn't say that. The Great Match Race. Is it a non-fiction book, Dennis? Or was it written to be fiction? Yo, man. Yeah, Wanda, I'm kind of thinking, the idea that I'm kind of thinking about is to show people listings when they come up on the website, new listings on the website, and just kind of run through the website with a video capture of the screen and use that to talk about the new RPM listings that we have, or double die listings that we have. And just put those up on TikTok and see what happens. TikTok. Might do the same thing on Instagram too. Of course, I could probably take the same videos and post them on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Triple purpose the whole thing. Make sure that a lot of different people get to see them. Nonfiction. Okay. Well, I will definitely look for it. I'm going to have to write this down, though. The Great Match Race. By John Eisenberg. Much appreciated. There are a lot of North Carolina history books in the Heritage Center in Smithfield, North Carolina, which happens to be the place that at the point that General Sherman heard about the surrender of Robert E. Lee at Appomattox, well, General Sherman was in Smithfield, North Carolina at that time when he got the news of that. So that's where he and all of his men learned about the end of the Civil War. And it's my understanding, I'm not really sure this is true, but it's my understanding that a Confederate general rode to Smithfield to offer official surrender to General Sherman. Malcolm McLaughlin. Oh, there is a nice RPM right there. That is a nice RPM. Split upper and lower. This looks like this is the first die for the roll, of which we have now 5 copies. Now 5 copies exist in this roll of this RPM, and we have, well, nearly 10 coins left to go. So here's coin number 42, Greg Taylor. And Greg Taylor is going to pull. As it appears, it's going to be a nothing for this particular coin. I'm sure Greg Taylor has more than one in here. I haven't seen his name yet, so maybe he has another slot coming up. I've got everything done and ready for the coin pull for tomorrow and the 1942 roll for tomorrow. So see what you can do about making your afternoon free at some point so that we can hang out again and go through that 42 roll. My sincerest apologies to all of those people who are involved in this roll and the other 2 items that were sold weeks ago that I'm finally getting to. There have been a number of issues that have prevented me from properly fulfilling my obligation to get these done prior to now. But for those who know me, you know me well enough to understand and know that when I promise something, it will happen. It may not happen on time, but it will happen. I have never backed out of responsibility. Sometimes I forget, but other times, other things get in the way and it just makes doing it on time impossible. All right, here's another one. Greg Taylor gets this one. So he got a nothing, but he did get this coin. So it should have the die crack running across the back of the head, and it does. I will see other markers that I'll be able to ascertain that these are all from the same die, and if they're not, of course, I will look up the other die number that belongs to the coins that are not from the same die, obviously. But we have what I believe are 6 examples of the same RPM now. And here we go with another one. This is Mike Birchman. And got nothing for you, Mike, not this time around. Thank you for trying. Now we got another one for Greg. There's Greg's third and last coin in this roll, and he gets another RPM. How about that? It's another one of the same RPM again. There's your die crack across the back of the head. That makes us another example of those. Here's coin number 48. I got 3 coins left. This is the first of the 3. See what we get. For Yo Man, looks like it's nothing on this particular one. I'm one of those examples of, well, you can put lipstick on a pig, but they're not going to look any different or better. They're just going to look like a pig with lipstick. I'll leave that right there. Coin number 49. Have a perfect face for radio. I'll tell you that for sure. All right, this is another one of our RPMs. Nice one for Jeff Dunn. Die crack on the back of the head, right there. That's right, I got a perfect face for radio. And fortunately, I have a voice that comes close to matching a perfect voice for radio, so maybe I should be doing something with radio. Coin number 50. Last coin in the row goes to Blue Sandy. And unfortunately, this one has the typical Batdorf Kiss of Death. And it is not an RPM. Ouch. A voice like silk. Well, thank you, Wanda. Okay, so here's what we ended up with. Wanda's going to make my head swell up so much it's going to explode. I'm going to have to take Benadryl for the cortisone. Okay. Here's all of our normal ones. And then for the first RPM, we have coins numbered 49, 47, 45, 41, 25, 23, 22, and number 3. For the doubled eyelid, I'm showing coin number 33. And for the other RPM, I found coin number 36. Here's the names. Two of our new participants, Rebecca and Greg T, get 2 each of this RPM. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work on identifying these. Once these become identified, I'm going to change the flip inserts out to a flip insert that'll be an official Copper Coins flip insert. The person who gets the coin photographed will get a flip insert like this one. It'll have the copper coins plate coin designation, the die number, and it will have my original pen signature at the bottom. For the others, they will get an identification as a die variety with the die variety number without the copper coins plate coin designation. And I will get all of those sent out to those people after next week's auction. So I'm going to try to work this on a 1-week schedule, try to keep it on a 1-week schedule, where I can put together the coins from the reveals and get them sent out the following Tuesday with the next Tuesday's auction. This is something I tried to do back in the day, and just things kept getting in the way, and well, I got to quit making excuses and start doing the work and doing whatever time and labor intense it is, or labor intensive work it is to get the work done. So here's what we have. We've got this one, and then tomorrow we're going to be doing this one right here, 1942 Philadelphia roll. It's 1942 Philadelphia. We're going to do this roll tomorrow. We may get to this one, 1968D, as well. But we're definitely going to do the 150 count box pull of coins that, well, I'll just let you know this. Some of the coins are worth $2, $3, $4, but we get up into the $20, $30, $40 range in some of these coins. So you guys stay tuned to the notifications for the YouTube channel. If you did not get a notification for today's reveal, you might want to uncheck notifications and recheck notifications on the channel, and that might reset your notifications so that you will get notifications. I do intend on sending an email out to everyone who's involved so that they will know that it's coming up. All right, so we're done with that part of the video, but I do want to show you something. A little bit of a hangout toward the end of the video here. And I'm going to pull this out of the way. And we're going to show you this. This right here is a 142 piece set, 142 coins that are every one of the issues of wheat cents from 1909 through 1958 in counterfeit Chinese make. These are all counterfeit coins. It involves every coin in the series 1909 to 1958. Yes, there is actually a fake 1958D Lincoln cent in here. Here's the 1914D. You can see that the mint mark appears to be more of an afterthought. The design is rather mushy. You can see that there's quite a lot of minor issue to the design on the obverse. It's grainy. It doesn't look quite right. And given that it doesn't look quite right, and there's also a VDB initial, it appears right there. There were no VDB initials on real 1914D Lincoln cents. But this is the 14D copy. Let me pull this up so you guys can see the entire coin. There. With this, there's a lot more dish to this coin than there would be for a real 1914D. The lack of design elements on this suggests that this is a copy of a later example, like a 1950s example. But this one does have plenty of luster. It is struck. It does weigh 3.11 grams, so it weighs the right amount, but the design does not look in any way correct for a 1914D. I'll show you one of the more common issues. I'm just going to grab one at random. I don't even know which one I'm pulling. I've even moved to a different pocket because I know that one's going to be a little harder to pull. So here's one that was easy to pull. Don't even know which one it is yet. 1952S. You believe that there are fake 1952S Lincoln cents. This is one of them. Completely fake. Was never a real coin. You can see how mushy Liberty is on the obverse. And the design is all over just kind of more of a, it's kind of a softer looking design, sort of a smirk on his face, weird. The reverse doesn't look too far off. It doesn't look too bad. But it is fake. This is a fake coin. It's not real. Came from a factory in China. I bought this set so that I would have a reference set that I could photograph and put on my website to show everyone what fake coins look like. Now, this isn't what all of them look like, but this is a good suggestion of a decent quality fake coin. Usually greeny, usually soft. The design elements are typically the wrong size, shape, or other that give you a great understanding and idea that you've got something that does not look right. If it doesn't look right, it's probably wrong. If it's wrong, it's probably fake. That's kind of where we go with this. Let's see, I'm going to grab another one here to show it to you. I'm going to pull all these out of this thing. Here's a 1956 plain. Just a plain old 1956 plain Lincoln cent. Fake as the day is long. Absolutely nothing real about this coin. That is a TikTok idea. Other than the fact that it is a 1956 appearance, a Lincoln cent appearance, even though it isn't the real thing, it does weigh the right amount. These weigh out at 3.11 grams, roughly 3.11. Let's see what this one weighs. How do we do that? I'll move this stuff out of the way. Put my trusty Briffett scale down here and turn it on. There we go. I'm going to pull this one off of here and set it on the scale and see what it weighs. 3.12 grams. 3.12 grams is not out of tolerance. So this is of normal weight for a wheat cent, which tells me that there is at least some decent possibility that these were created from real cent blanks. Let's see if I can find... I think I found the 55 double die. Let me get that one out. I think I found it. Nope. That's the 55 regular, not the double die. Just for knowledge's sake, I ordered this from a seller on Alibaba. I spent $82 on this set of coins so that I could use them for educational purposes. I bought them to put them in holders for myself so that I could photograph them and show them to you guys. I will be sharing these over time on different venues. I'm trying to find the 55. Oh, there it is, the 55 double die, so you guys can see what it looks like. It's not a great copy. It's not a... Oops. It's not an outstanding idea of what a 55 double die looks like, but it doesn't look too far off the real thing. It's a little flat. I've seen them worse than this, that's for sure. How to identify them if they weigh right? Well, the design just doesn't look right. That's all I can really tell you. You get a little bit of experience looking at these, the real thing, and you will know the fake ones. They just don't look right. For this, the rim is too thick. The letters are too close to the rim. The hair detail is not quite right. The chin is a little bit too large. And it really kind of depends on the angle that you look at it as to whether it looks like he's got an evil grin on his face or a smile. But either way, it's not right. The reverse on these is a little harder to tell because the reverse looks a little more real on most of these. But you see that grain? There's like a heavy grain to the entire surface, including the edges of the digits. That grain is what tells you right off, this just isn't a coin. This is a fake. The 09S's are not impressive. They don't, to me, they don't look close to real. But I've got 43 Philly, Denver, and San Francisco in copper. So I've got all three of the rare ones, right? Let's see if I can find this 09S VDB here. Yeah, some of these coins are just a little bit on the spooky side. They look a little bit too good that they will fool a number of people, I'm sure. But most of these are just kind of offhanded fakes. They just don't look right. A little bit of experience looking at the real thing. There's an 09S. Looks kind of pretty. Mint mark's wrong. The details are not near sharp enough, especially in the hair. And I flip it over and show you the other side. Yep. The VDB isn't right. It's not the right shape. The B, the middle of the B is supposed to be a slant, and it's not. But otherwise, it looks relatively good. I mean, it could fool anybody in an immediate flash. And of course, like if you're selling the 1948D, no one would even think you'd fake a 48D. This one's 3.114 grams, which is right on proper weight for a Lincoln cent. So you can't tell by the weight. Yep, and the rims really are. The rims are just off, and there's some of these where they look really off. I mean, like really bad. And then there's other ones that they look relatively good. But anyhow, I thought I'd show you that real quick. I'm going to do another video on these. I just wanted to show them to you while we were already here gathered together before I take off for the evening. This is the only reveal I'm going to be doing this evening. It's already 10 o'clock at night here on the East Coast. And I do not want to keep anybody up too late. But I do have still 4 reveals plus a box pull to do. I've got the box pull ready. I've got everybody's chips ready. So we'll be doing that tomorrow. Until then, folks, I think I'm going to sign off. I appreciate everybody coming tonight. And I appreciate all of you, all of your patience, and all of the participation in these shows. I thoroughly enjoy going through everything that I go through to make these broadcasts happen. It's well worth it, very well worth it, just to be able to have you guys around and learning from what I'm doing. And that's the primary reason why I bought this set of Lincolns. I wanted you guys to be able to see it, and I'm going to photograph the whole thing. It's going to be really cool. So on that, I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great night. I appreciate everyone being here, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.